Hello, I'm Waverly Ray and I teach geography at San Diego Mesa College, a community college here in San Diego, California. I'm one of the 2024 Polar STEAM Educator Fellows, and I got to join a polar researcher in the far north of Greenland. I was so incredibly excited to join a research team doing fieldwork on the Arctic water cycle. Geography is all about how people and places are interconnected, and this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to build my knowledge of polar regions and the science that helps us to understand them.
I joined a permafrost hydrology research team led by Dr. Eric Klein from the Department of Geological Sciences at the University of Alaska, Anchorage. Each day, we visited watersheds in high Arctic northern Greenland to install instruments, collect water samples, and gather data. The field site locations have been stunning with flowing rivers and incredible vistas across the tundra. This research helps us to understand how the timing and characteristics of river discharge in northern Greenland watersheds across permafrost landscapes with varying connectivity to glaciers and the Greenland ice sheet are influenced by rapid changes in high Arctic climate. Currently, there is a knowledge gap related to how permafrost thaw impacts Arctic stream hydrology. With a warming planet, the active layer, this uppermost layer of permafrost that freezes and thaws annually, is increasing. It's unclear how stream flow and groundwater dynamics interact with these changes. This has implications both locally and globally. An increased understanding of permafrost thaw processes will improve our understanding of future changes to the water cycle. The high northern latitudes are experiencing rapid change, and this project will provide insights on the interactions between glacial melting, river discharge, permafrost thaw, and groundwater flow.
The Arctic is changing, driven primarily by changes in atmospheric temperature. The water cycle of the Arctic is rapidly shifting. For example, glaciers are melting, the Greenland ice sheet is melting, permafrost is thawing. These change in features are impacting how water moves through the Arctic system. What we are trying to understand is how these changes in the cryosphere, or the areas of the planet in which water is frozen, are impacting the Arctic water cycle. So we're trying to understand how changes in permafrost thaw and changes in surface ice features such as glacial ice, peripheral glaciers, and the Greenland ice sheet are interacting and combining to influence the amount of water in streams and rivers. We are interested in studying how changes in timing are occurring. For example, shifts in seasonal patterns. When is the water coming out? Is it coming out early in the melt season or later? And this can also vary depending on how much ice is in a watershed. The timing of water in a river will vary depending on whether it's driven by primarily rain, for example, or if there's ice in that watershed. These patterns will shift as the Arctic continues to shift and ice melts and changes, and the Arctic climate systems become warmer and wetter, so precipitation changes will also increase the amount of discharge in some streams while reducing the amount in others. And permafrost thaw in these systems is also a component that we're trying to understand and how it's interacting with changes in the ice sheet. And collectively, these changes in the cryosphere, everything from shifts in ice sheet mass balance to reductions in sea ice cover, are influencing how water is moving through the Arctic system. And this is important for many reasons, not only for the availability of fresh water within the Arctic, but also the amount of fresh water that's being dumped into adjacent coastal and ocean areas, which can have influences on energy balances, thermohaline circulation, and food web communities. In addition to looking at changes in seasonal timing of the amount of water flowing out of rivers and other streams connected to ice and other glacial features, we're also trying to understand what that water is composed of, or the characteristics of that water. So as the seasonality of the water shifts and permafrost is thawing and glaciers are receding, you can also have different elements and nutrients that are being flushed out into these river systems. So for example, permafrost thaw could be releasing carbon that has been stored for thousands of years, or additional nitrogen or other nutrients into these water systems, which in turn can influence food webs and other outlying coastal features as well. So we're trying to understand not only the shifts in timing, but also the characteristics of that water that's coming out, as they are greatly influenced by these shifts in the cryosphere.
We're working on creating a unit on permafrost hydrology that I will utilize in my physical geography courses. Students will analyze the data from 3 of the watersheds that I visited. The lesson will introduce the Arctic water cycle, and students will generate hypotheses and examine data. The unit concludes with students preparing to present their findings for local Greenlandic communities. I've also gained an understanding of the challenges of high Arctic research that I can share with my students. Pre-planning and adapting to changing conditions are fundamental to successful field seasons in northern Greenland. Solving problems with few resources in the field and making minor adjustments to improve data quality occurred on a daily basis. Plus, numerous types of data are collected to take advantage of the rare opportunity to do field work in remote places.
Greenland was a place like no other I've experienced. The beauty of the tundra and the massive ice sheet and the fjords are all etched into my mind. I have a place carved out in my heart for all the people that I work with, the research team led by Dr. Klein at the University of Alaska Anchorage, and for the Greenlanders who helped me to realize that we're closer than what a numerical distance suggests. My goal is to spark curiosity in my students about the far north and to inspire them to make their own connections with the people who call it home.